What's up, everybody? It's your boy Dave P with my main man, RJ Pepino from The Cream, Cash Flow, Real Estate, and Money. And today we are talking about a little bit about our grassroots start when we started out in the real estate business. And really, you know, it wasn't the same when we started out as it is now, but there were things that we could have done differently when we were first starting out that would have made our journey much, much smoother and much easier. We're going to get into some of these things and how you can implement these things in your business right now. I don't care if you're just starting out or if you've already started out and you're kind of looking to scale. You got to scale appropriately. We're going to be helping you with that. But RJ, how is the vibe?
The vibe's good. The vibe's alive. A lot of really cool stuff happened this week.
Yes.
You know, we just got done with our quarterly, which is long overdue, but there's a lot going on in our business. And we had two really intensive days, and while we were, you know, having those two intensive days, the team was on fire.
On fire.
I think in the last 7 days we've got north of 20 contracts.
20 contracts in 7 days, everybody.
And then we have a lead on a package of properties. So a lot of cool stuff is going on. And as you guys can see in all the socials that, you know, we've been talking about the pay yourself first system.
Yes.
And you're going to get a little bit of the story behind that and why we had to create that, because it was out of necessity. You know, we didn't, I mean, hopefully you guys know by now, but we didn't come into this business with like a bunch of money. We didn't have rich parents. We didn't have a trust fund, whatever. And so we had to build this business out of, you know, the school of hard knocks. We learned the hard way. But one thing that we've always done is that we've always invested in mentors. And somehow we got into this group, a mastermind group. We qualified for this. I don't know how we got in, but we were just on a hot streak one year and we got in. But anyways, the reason why we were shooting this is we want to kind of tell you our story of how we started from really nothing. We, you know, I had somewhat of a wholesaling business, and I say somewhat because it was just like me and some VAs, and that was it. But I was doing some deals, had a lot of deal flow coming in, and I met you in like 2012.
Correct.
Well, 10.
Well, no, yeah, 2010.
We started the business in 2012, and it was literally Dave and I in a half of a duplex on Hubbard. For those that don't know where that is, that's just like right in you know, in the middle of downtown Columbus, in half of a duplex. It was me, you, my roommate, and we were sitting on the kitchen table, stacks of property bills. We had just purchased a couple properties. Actually, it was like 15.
12 or
properties.
15. Yeah, it's 12, I'm pretty sure.
But it was a portfolio of deals.
Yeah.
That was crazy that we did that in our first year.
Yeah, so here's what happened. You know, I started real estate back in 05, 06, and I started driving neighborhoods and running addresses through the public records and finding people. It was literally like hard knocks skip tracing, if you will. And that's how I started my flipping business. The market was hot, so I was able to flip a lot of properties, but I had no financial literacy and just no fiscal management education. So I ended up losing everything, went belly up in 07, 08 during that bubble burst. Didn't understand different terms of financing, didn't understand subprime, didn't understand any of that stuff. I was just kind of riding that bubble up. Lost it all, was willing to do anything I needed to do to kind of stay afloat, get back into business. I waited tables, did a lot of telemarketing in my experience. But then I started working for a real estate education company. And as RJ already mentioned, he's never been shy or afraid to invest in mentors. So he had invested in a mentorship, which brought him out to San Diego, California, which is where I was living at that time. And I was working for that real estate training education company, met RJ at a seminar. We became friends in 2010. And I was ready to come back to Ohio.
We were smoking cigarettes back then, remember?
We were smoking Camel Crushes back then, as a matter of fact, which is terrible. It's a much different. We were in our 20s, you know, drinking alcohol too much and smoking cigarettes and just partying it up. And if you're in your 20s, I'm not going to shame you or judge you if that's what you're up to, right? When it gets to the late 20s, it's time to start slowing down on that stuff because it's time to start taking care of real business, which we learned that as well, of course. But yeah, I was ready to move back to Ohio. My folks were getting up in age, moved back to Ohio in 2012, and we didn't have access to financing. We wanted to start buying houses together, but given that I had went through the previous real estate meltdown and RJ had some dings on his credit and the financing wasn't as loose back in 2012 as it has been in recent years, we didn't have access to financing, so we had to borrow private money. We had to figure out the private money business quickly. And we reached out to some people that I had previously used to wholesale properties to, and they were buy and hold investors. They wanted to get their capital working with some young, hungry guys in an up and coming market like Columbus, Ohio. So they became our very first private lenders, Chris and Rusty.
Yeah.
And they were from an old school buy and hold background. So we learned really quickly that buy and hold is the way to wealth. Buy and hold is the way to build a net worth and build a portfolio and that passive income. But what we didn't know right away when we first started buying and holding properties is that it is the get rich slow program. It's the get rich bloody program and the get rich painful program, because it takes a lot of rentals to even be positive cash flow enough to earn a decent wage.
Yeah.
So we started buying properties and we were against flipping. We said, oh, we don't want to flip. We want to be like Chris and Rusty. We want to be buy and hold guys. Well, what we didn't know is that that is a starving artist way to do this. A very, you're eating ramen noodles while you're building a portfolio.
Hey, I like ramen noodles.
Yeah, he had ramen noodles today, as a matter of fact, with some chunks of ribeye steak in there today. But we wish we would have been able to earn large chunks of cash, which comes from wholesaling or flipping, while we were building our buy and hold portfolio.
Yeah.
Talk more about that.
Here's what happens, okay? Because this happened to us. Wholesaling, you get a $10,000 to $15,000 check, right? In month one of your business, so say on January. But if you don't have another deal coming in and you still need more marketing out there, you still got to eat as well, and you're waiting for another $15,000 check, and it doesn't happen in month 2 and in month 3 and in month, you got bills, you got your car note to pay, you've got groceries, all that stuff. You start feeling a little tight, right? You start feeling tight. And then you're like, oh man, is this thing really going to work? I really need deals to close. Wholesaling is like this. It's a roller coaster. It's very inconsistent, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah.
And then when we were buying all these rentals, let's just do the numbers on rentals. An average deal, a really good deal, in a B-class market of Ohio right now, back then, was going to be a net of like maybe $300, right? $300 for that month. And even if you rehab the property from head to toe, put all new shit in there, what happens is that you're going to get somebody in that house that's going to break something. So let's just say they broke the plumbing. And now you're netting $300, right? And you're counting on that deal to net the next month $300. What happens is that something breaks that's going to cost you $500 or $600. It completely wipes out a couple months of rental income that you're relying on.
Correct.
Right? And then you're waiting on that next wholesale check to come in. And the inconsistencies are just profound in this business. And if you don't structure, we're going to talk about this, if you don't structure how you're buying it up front and how you're kind of planning on monthly consistent hits of cash, like what we had to do, was we had to really look at how we're borrowing and buying these properties and come up with a game plan. Now, we didn't figure this out until we were really forced to do it. This is why we're doing this video, so that you guys can see all of this, context of why we created this pay yourself first system.
So it's typically, here's where we're at, everybody. When people are starting out in this business, and this is how we started out as well, it's the either or program. You are either flipping properties for large chunks of cash to, keep food on the table. That's a very cash-heavy business. It's a wonderful business. However, you're not building a portfolio, and we all know building a portfolio is the way to wealth. So it's the either-or program. People are either flipping and generating large sums of cash, or they are buying and holding, and they're living the starving investor program where they are just getting by. Yes, they're building their net worth, but you can't eat equity, everybody. So it's the either-or program. We have figured out a way to essentially keep the large chunks of cash coming in from flipping while you are building a long-term portfolio with the same property. We're not talking about, yes, we do have a flipping business over here and a rental portfolio over here, but when we're first starting out, and if you're first starting out, you got to figure out how to get large sums of money up front from a rental property you are buying. This is the ultimate recipe for wealth building. You keep the large chunks of cash coming in while you are building long-term investments, which will pay you a monthly positive cash flow, and then you're setting yourself up for a cash out refinance on the back end. It's getting paid 3 times. You get paid up front and use none of your own money. Because if you're using your own money for deals, now you don't have money for marketing. You've got to keep the marketing engine rolling. This is where a lot of investors fail as well. They do a little marketing, they get some deals, they say, oh my gosh, I'm excited, I'm gonna do these deals. They put all their energy on these deals, especially, buy and hold, I gotta rehab the property, get it rented, they're learning that aspect of the business, and they shut down their marketing engine. And then finally, when they get the property fixed up and rented out and producing, they go back, oh, I'm ready for more deals now. Well, your marketing engine is ice cold.
Yeah.
Because you stopped feeding it. So you've got to continue marketing, which means you got to hang on to your own capital. So when you're doing these deals, we teach people how to use none of your own money. You're going to be using other people's money to acquire the property, to pay yourself first up front, to generate a positive cash flow monthly, and then to set yourself up for a cash out refinance on the back end, where you're going to get another payday. And that payday is, what is that payday?
Is that on the back end?
On the back end.
That's the cash, that's the tax-free, we call that the HIP National Bank.
Yeah, you put the money in the HIP National Bank, you're putting it into your wallet,
it's tax-free,
and it's all
amazing.
tax-free. So with that being said, tell us a little bit more about the Pyf system and kind of how this is going to be working, RJ.
If you're buying so it allows you to get paid in 2 ways if you're going to flip the property, and 3 ways if you're going to be keeping it as a rental. Now, we love, obviously we're buy and hold investors. We want to keep them as much as we can, because I've never met a successful real estate investor who has said, oh man, damn, I wish I would have not held more properties.
Correct. The number one regret of every real estate professional, and I'm not just talking about flippers, and I'm not just talking about investors, every real estate professional, every realtor that you know, every appraiser that you know, every surveyor that you know, every lender that you know, from a mortgage broker to a loan officer, every title company representative, every single real estate professional, because they see so many addresses, they're working on deals constantly, and then they get to the end of the road, they're in their 40s, and they look back and they say, heck, it's been a good run, but I own 0 assets. What am I going to do? Chase the next real estate transaction for the rest of my life? The number one regret of every real estate professional is they wish they would have held on to more properties, and this is exactly what we teach you how to do. But we teach you how to buy and hold properties and build a portfolio off of the Starving Investor Program. So you keep cash coming in while you build passive income and set yourself up for long-term wealth.
Yep, and then the flipping property is the same way. You're going to get paid up front.
Yep.
You don't have to wait 90 to 120 days, or if it's even a wholesale deal, right? So you can get small hits of cash up front and then the bigger payday on the back end, or if you want to get more up front, we show you some ways that you have options so that now you're in control of your business. So there's we created a free training.
Yep.
And if you want that free training, you can send me a DM on my Instagram. I see it a lot better there than I do TikTok. TikTok's crazy, but go to my Instagram at RJ Pepino and send me a DM. I'll send you that free training. But I also want to talk about some of the questions that have been coming up. So one of the questions that keep coming up is, all right, so you got to use private capital. Well, where do you find these people that have private money? And so back in our story, right, when we were trying to raise anything at that point, we were trying to find money to buy some of these houses that were really, really cheap back in 2012. We started with our network. Literally, I remember Dave sitting on the front porch of the duplex, and he's smoking a cigarette on the phone, pacing back and forth, making phone calls, and we found a lender who was a buyer for your wholesale deal.
Back in the day.
That is where you can find some of your private lenders. For the real estate investors watching this, if you have a buyer's list, those buyers have access to capital.
Correct. And as a matter of fact, I had a conversation today with a local wholesaler. She does a ton of transactions, Abby. Spoke to Abby today, and we were talking about, because we run a local real estate networking group, and she wanted to have her assistant entered in so the assistant could assist in her selling properties. She's a wholesaler, right? So yeah, we kind of had a brief conversation today, and that's what she said. She said, I'm going to the bank or somewhere to file a mortgage release because from one of the lenders or from one of the transactions that I actually loaned my own money on. I said, oh, you're doing a little private lending? She said, yes, that's great. Real estate investors, same with us. We like to lend our own money on real estate transactions because we understand real estate, right? What are you going to do when you have cash? You're either going to buy stocks, you're going to buy crypto, or you're going to do a real estate deal for the most part. Nobody's buying bonds right now. So when we have excess cash, we want to get that money working. Obviously, the bank pays us 0%. And same with this wholesaler. She probably had some excess cash, so she lent this money to another real estate investor. And that's exactly what RJ is talking about right now. If you're already a wholesaler with a buyer's list, think how many of those people have money that want to keep their money in real estate or secured by real estate. A great place to look for private money is your immediate real estate investor community and network.
Yep. And you know, that whole networking aspect that Dave was mentioning about, go to those network meetings. Where's your RIA? It might be someone in your market right now that's holding that. We're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff going on in our market. Every real estate investor they're hosting real estate meetups because they know the power of getting a whole bunch of people together in a room, educating them and showing them like, hey, these are the real estate deals that are available. Somebody in that room has access to money and they need to deploy it, because when you have money and you're not making it work for you, you're not making any money.
Right.
So if you're coming up on stage and saying, hey, I have 123 Main Street, it's a really good deal, I'm looking to wholesale it, there might be somebody in that group that wants to lend on your deal or partner on that deal. So real estate networking meetups, you can find them on Facebook. You can actually go to them on meetup.com. Go there. You know, we're going to be really active in our community and doing probably monthly, maybe twice a month, right? Maybe twice a month meetups so that we can get to meet y'all that have been in this group. I think there's like 7,000 people in that group. But
about 7,500.
We want to meet you and see how we could add value together. And you just got to, you know, go to Facebook, what's it, the Cream Facebook group, and ask to join that. We want a lot of our local real estate investors and realtors and lenders, and there's like, you know, appraisers in there. We want to help you guys network with each other.
So that's step one, right? Where are we finding the private money? So when you are out there and pitching your deal, like RJ just instructed you to do, just kind of put it out there like this. I have access to wholesale deals. Let me know if you're interested in buying, but I'm also open to JV opportunities. I can find deals, right? That's what you're doing. If you're already a wholesaler, why not find a private lender, make them the capital partner? You guys buy the house. Maybe, you know how easy it is to form an LLC, by the way, everybody? You could easily form an LLC for a couple $100 at the Secretary of State between you and your private lender. You guys both have this LLC. They provide the capital. You found the deal. You manage the rehab. I would suggest if you're just starting out, take on as little rehab as humanly possible. They put up all the money and start by flipping the profits. That's what we started doing. And I remember back in the day when we had first brought on our first private lenders, we told our friends in our network, you know, hey, this is what we're doing. We're giving up 50% of the profits and we're paying interest. And people said, I would never do that. I would never do that. You guys are paying too much, right? Everybody says you're paying too much. You know who's the loudest about us paying too much? The people who are never doing any deals on their own. The same people who said, I would never do that. Well, guess what they would never do? They would never do a real estate deal. You got to pay to play when you're first starting out because you got to earn your stripes and build your track record and build a reputation. And when you finally have a reputation of some success stories from previous deals under your belt, now you could raise cheaper capital. And that's what we did. So we started out raising pretty expensive capital. I'm not going to lie, 12%, 3 points, and 50% of the equity. In fact, I don't know anyone else who's paid a higher interest than that. I don't know anyone else who had more expensive money than we did starting out, but guess what? We stuck with it. Our profits, sure, we had to give up a lot of the profits to the lender, but it allowed us to build a track record, and now we're borrowing private money between 9 and 12%, sometimes even less, you know, depends on the deal. But The cost of money is irrelevant when you're first getting started. What you should focus on is just finding really good deals, finding people who want to JV with you, get your reputation built, so then you can continue finding deals, lower your cost of capital, and really start to scale.
All right, we're going to go to another question. Another question is, how are you guys? How are you guys finding off-market deals? Let me talk to you about our biggest source right now, and give you guys a tip. So, and if you were on my live yesterday, we talked about this, but right now we're getting a lot of deals from good old Google and the web. So what happens is that, and it doesn't happen overnight, but we invest a lot of money into pay-per-click or PPC. We have a really strong website presence because throughout the years of doing this, we have sat down with the seller, or our rep has sat down with the seller and has taken a video testimonial. Where do we put that video testimonial? We put it right on YouTube. Why do we want to put it on YouTube?
Because Google owns YouTube, and then also what you can do in the description of your YouTube video, you could backlink your website. You should have a house buying website for your business. It doesn't need to be super fancy. It just needs to be consistent and operatable, and needs to be in operation. But then you can add that hyperlink to your description, and you can add a ton of keywords to, we buy houses, Columbus, Ohio, Central Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. These are things that we tag this video with. And then, like RJ kind of was alluding to, Google owns YouTube, so it's going to help your Google ranks for that website link that you put in there, which should be your house buying website.
And then look at this. Like, you have your reps, right? Or even yourself, and you have a seller who's kind of like, man, I don't know if I should go with you guys. I've heard a lot of stuff on the internet about you guys. Wouldn't it be powerful if you had a video testimonial ready to share with them of somebody that you've helped in their similar situation?
Yes.
This is the people business. People want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So if you have that video testimonial, you can send it to them and say, hey, look, I understand, but before I go, let me show you Mrs. Jones, Mr. Jones that I helped last week in the same similar situation as you, and take a look at this. And you pull out your phone, right? And you go to your YouTube or whatever, you already have those links in your presentation, and you're like, hey, look, take a look at this. And so they're looking at that, I'm like, oh, okay. So you've helped them, and then you're building more rapport.
Yeah.
And you can actually probably close that deal. We've done that so many times, and our reps have access to this. Now you're just showing them more credibility, So that is that our best way right now is the web. You got to get those video testimonials with every motivated seller that you help, because you're helping them with their life problem that they're having.
Let me teach you guys how to get these testimonials real quick, because this is something that I got pretty good at over the years, and it really boils down to 3 questions. So if you're watching this on live, unless you're driving, if you're kind of at home, whatever, grab a pen and a paper, write this down. There are 3 questions that you're going to ask on every single testimonial video, meaning you set up your camera, you got the seller, you just signed, they're already happy. You did what you said you're going to do. Even if you're wholesaling the property, they got their cash. That's all. And you never get a second chance to get a testimonial, by the way. Even the people who say, oh, I'll meet with you next week, they're never coming back. Okay, they're never coming back. That's an interesting thing that I've noticed. But there's really 3 questions. Number 1, you're going to say, so how did you hear about me? Right? And just get them talking, right? How did you hear about me? Oh, and you know what? Another thing I've noticed over the years is people don't even remember how they got a hold of you, because there's they don't know if they read a text or got a piece of direct mail or found you online. They don't remember. They don't really care. So that's why it's so important to capture every single lead and start on that relationship immediately. They will remember the relationship. They're going to completely forget about how you first contacted them. But that's the first question of the testimonial. You say, so how did you hear about me? Number 2 is, what was your experience like working with me? And they're at the closing table with a check in their hand, so they're going to say, it was good. They're always going to say it was good, right? And then finally, 3rd question, because you want to keep these videos short, 3rd question is, and what would you say to somebody else who wants to sell their house fast and easy for all cash? Inevitably, they're going to say, well, I'll call RJ. Always. It has never failed. So the top 3 questions when getting a testimonial video: number 1, how did you hear about us? Number 2, what was your experience like working with us? And number 3, what would you say to somebody else in your shoes who wanted to sell their house fast for cash? Write those down.
Awesome, Dave. Hey, so listen, we created this free training. If you want that free training, DM me on Instagram, and I'll get you that free training link. It's about a 10-minute video or something like that. We'd love to help you guys out more. Definitely follow Dave. He's at The Real Dave P. And then we're coming out with some new stuff here, so be on the lookout for the next live. We're doing weekly, actually daily at this point, dude. We're getting a lot of deals in. Daily deal reviews of how we
did 3 today, by the way. We closed 3 deals today.
How we got the deal, what marketing that we used, what we did with the deal, and then we'll do another thing like this where we're going to be answering your Q&A. So, guys, thank you for joining the live. Thank you for listening to this video, and we'll see you on the next one.